Hi everyone, welcome to week 3. And this week we are going to be spending some time really investigating what our individual, unique responses to fear and stress and anxiety are. And this is really important because, well, for a number of reasons. One is that sometimes there is a delay between when we have an initial fear reaction and we move into that stress phase, and ideally, of course, we can then either, um, you know, decide that the thing we were afraid of isn't something to be worried about anymore, that the fear has passed, or we've investigated enough to say it really wasn't something to be worried about in the first place. Now we know that, and we're able to move out of the stress phase and kind of bypass the whole anxiety phase altogether. But sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes there is a delay between being afraid of something and being able to determine that that thing is not something we need to continue to be worried about or have anxiety about. There's also, there are times when we have low-level anxiety and we don't even realize that we're afraid of something because those fears are maybe more subconscious, maybe more related to our core beliefs, and we don't even realize that we're kind of harboring this low level of anxiety and that we even need to be triggered to start doing the investigating. So obviously, there are very similar responses we all have to like major fear response. Our hearts start racing, we're on adrenaline, we're pumped up, we kind of have that fight or flight response. But when you move into the longer term anxiety with unresolved fear, those responses can be pretty unique and individual. Now, there's some common ones, but we really need to get to know how our body and how we feel when we're having those signs. So, like for me, I know that I kind of have, if it's a pretty high level of anxiety, I kind of get that flopping stomach feel, right? Other times I get just kind of tightness in my chest that won't go away, or maybe I just can't focus very well. For me, sometimes even with long-term anxiety or stress, I start to have skin breakouts. I'll get headaches. Maybe I won't sleep very well. So there's lots of different things. And again, there's some common ones, but they can be very individual. And you can even get to a point where you realize kind of the chronological order of how things, how these symptoms start to show up. And so you can kind of tell how far into this, period of anxiety am I based on what symptoms am I feeling and showing. So we can get really, really intimately familiar with our own stress responses, and that can be super helpful. So what we're going to do, like I said, this week, we are going to identify what some of those symptoms are. And we're also going to take it a step further and look at, when I start to have some of these longer term anxiety symptoms in my life, what do I typically fall back on as my coping strategies, right? So, some people, start to binge eat. I'll do that sometimes, right? And then unfortunately, sometimes those coping strategies then create a whole nother set of anxiety and stress because now I'm worried and I'm scared about, gaining weight or getting fat or whatever, whatever that is for us. That's one of mine. This goes way back to core beliefs from my childhood. But we need to figure out whether our coping strategies are actually helping or are they making things worse? Or are they just neutral and not really doing anything and we're kind of just wasting our time? But so we're going to want to look at, are these behaviors actually helpful? Do they fuel more anxiety or do they make us feel better? And then we might look at things like, do I tend to be more anxious at a particular time of day than I am at other times of day? Do I rely on, alcohol or medications? Do I find that I get heartburn a lot, and so I'm taking a lot of over-the-counter, heartburn medication when I'm anxious? What role does exercise play? For some people, that's really helpful. For others, it's not. And then we're going to look at how different does my body feel when I'm actually doing something I enjoy. So for me, I definitely feel way different when I'm outside with my horses, just enjoying being present with them. My body feels very different than it does, especially if I'm inside being anxious or worried about something. So we're really going to see how our body feels different when we're in a good place versus an anxious place, and start to pay a lot of attention to that. So we might start noticing when signs of anxiety are creeping in, and we can mitigate them in the early phases versus waiting until they become chronic. And it's really interesting that all of my horses have individual tells that, are signs about their stress levels too. So Rayleigh, for instance, one of his first tells when he starts to get anxious is he'll cross his front legs. It's cute. It looks cute, but it's really not. Now that I know what it is, it's a sign that he's just starting to go up the adrenaline level, the anxiety level. And, it's probably something that happens, I'm sure, subconscious. He doesn't know he's doing it, just like we have those things, but we can start to notice what they are. Marcus, he gets itchy and agitated, so he has skin reactions when he starts to get stressed. Tempo, she gets really frustrated, starts doing a lot of head tossing. She gets bossy to the other horses. She kind of wants to take out her agitation and her anxiety on others around her, whether it's horses or people or the pig. And then Puck, if she starts to get anxious, she really tends to pace, right? And she can kind of check out a little bit too. So that's with the horses. Every living individual has unique responses to stress and anxiety. So this week is going to be about identifying what yours are. All right. Talk to you soon.